This is going to be another talk about a syntax trick for using operator underloading or overloading. Or, well, it isn't so much about commas as underscores, and when you put two of them together, we call it a dunder. And so I had actually indirectly suggested the title of this talk, the Dunderbelly. So it's also about a module or a class that I really like called default dict. How many of you know what a default dict is? Maybe a third. It's really nice. It's a dictionary that if you access an element that isn't there, it appears as you're doing it, so that you don't get an error. There's something there for you to work on. And a nice example of it is if you have a default dict of ints, you can count things with it. So you can say, I have one more dog. Okay? Just to show if I have a regular dict, that's a problem because there was no dog entry in the dict. But a default dict of ints, when you access an element that's not there, it's a 0, and then you can add something to it and put it back in. So I got out the non-existent dog element, it's a 0, and I added 1 to it. So I can say, this is a nice way to loop through a list of things and count how many of each thing you have. There's other uses for this, making lists of the things that are in a class. So I counted some cats and dogs, and now I have my default dict with 2 dogs and 1 cat, or a count of 2 dogs and 1 cat. I said I want to make it go too deep. I want to have the species, say, and the name of my pets, and I'm going to count how many dogs I have named Fido and how many cats I have named Sam. And yeah, that'd be easy, right? Something like this. Right? Oh no. Who knows the solution to this one? Yeah. So the item inside the type that this thing here, this int, the thing I'm making a default dict of has to be something you can call to get a new instance of the thing. So if you call int, you get a 0, right? And that becomes your default item. But if you call, well, see, what I did here is I actually called this already, and so I got back a default dict, and then it tried to call the default. It doesn't work. But you can make a function that does it. So I can say, okay, now, how many people reading that get what it does now? Oh, that's even more than the third who knew what a default dict is.
You taught us, Steve.
Yeah. See, yeah. Proof, but I mean, learning by solving problems. So yeah, I just find that kind of indirect. I also wanted one that went down as deep as I could get it. And you can't do that with a lambda.
Yes, you can. It's called the Y Combinator.
Oh my God.
The calculus.
Wait, could you write that in a line of Python, do you think?
No, but
Don't dare him to.
I figured it out by hand. I didn't land the calculus by hand.
Yeah, but in Python. Okay, so my next
Show us your solution,
lightning
Steve.
talk. Okay. So, you know, you might think, okay, I'm going to return, this is going to be something you call, and I'm going to give you a default, let's see. How many people think that's wrong? How many, yeah, we have at least one. How many people are sure that's right?
We trust you, Steve.
Okay, so see, we got about one total vote for I'm sure it's right and I'm sure it's wrong. That's what I don't like about this. I think it is right. Let's try this. X. You notice how long they are when you print them out? So this is the intermediate conclusion of the talk. There is a way to do it with default dicts that doesn't go through the craziness I'm about to show you.
Do the craziness in 2 minutes.
All right, 2 minutes of craziness. Good. I made up a module, and this is how you do these things. Say line equals.
Uh-oh, we gotta review the docs.
Oh yeah. I'm supposed to mask these. Okay, so. So,
Sure you don't need deject.deject?
is that what I did?
You imported deject. Yeah.
Why is a class? This is a problem with my syntax. You might think that gave me an instance, but what I really wanted was so now, why is a deject of dejects of ints with no contents? You see the empty curly here. And so I can say y sub 1, sub 2, sub 3 equals
Uh-oh.
what?
This is the deject of a deject of an int, so you should only do.
Oh, yeah. I can't do something that is not typed to do. This is not one of those infinite regress things. But y of 1 or 2 plus equals 1. Now, there. It's a deject of dejects of int. And its first element is a deject of ints. And that's a dictionary whose second element 2 is 1. Okay, so I can now say y of 1. Put the 1 back. So I used the bracket syntax as a way of customizing my class with another class. So if you have a use for that, I have a syntax for it. I also made this one. Okay. G is a deject that goes on forever with nothing in it at the moment, so I can say G. So if you notice, every deject in every level of this guy is another one of these infinite regress dejects. This ... is actually a Python syntax thing called the ellipsis. And it's only used in
NumPy slicing.
NumPy slices, yeah. So I stole it.
Bummer.
And that's 12 minutes out.
So is the bottom thing still one type now, or can you put different, like instance strings down at that same level?
What happens, if you simply assign to it, it doesn't invoke the getting a default thing. If you try to add to it, you have a problem. Because you're trying to add a one to a dictionary.
So you built the machine.
No. This is just default ticks of default ticks of default ticks. But if you assign
type
to
assigned to in the ellipsis version, there isn't any type associated the way there was when you built one of these.
It's not strongly typed, you can put anything in there.
Yeah.
no, if you have one of ints, I think we still do.
No, with this ellipsis.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Infinite
No,
type,
no.
anything can
It's
go in
the
there.
same with all the other ones we did. Even though if I had a deject of,
The int is just a default, it's not a type check.
yeah, it's not. Yeah.
Right.
So
So you can still use the default thing?
you can't default to something other than the type you asked for, but you can set it to.
Okay, great. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. I will write a link to a file that has this.
Any other questions for Steve?
Are you aware of the counter class, which is also part of the collections function?
Probably does exactly what I want, all in one, right?
It's basically defaulted specialized for integers.
Yeah.
And it has a couple of other nifty
That's
methods
good to
as
know.
well, finding, for example, the most common integer counter and that sort of thing. But it doesn't do that sort of crazy recursive thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's just a good thing to deal with.
So the other thing I've actually used default ticks for is, like I said, collecting the elements of a class. Nice thing. Or the things that match a certain key. Okay.
You keep talking while we put on this computer.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So which is part of the Python stack?
It is, yeah, it's part of the Python language, and it only has this one use so far. So, I mean, not
Right.
this use, now it has two.